Hey folks, I'm the creator of the program, Worldographer. This is um, this is a look at creating a Lamprey map. This month's theme for our Patreon is Magic in Space, and so we're creating a bunch of icons, over 100 of them, that are going to be specialized in creating magic ships. Um, And so you can go to Add Configuration subfolders with the Pro version of Worldographer. This is one of the Pro features to add in extra icons. And you can, you would unzip the icons that you download to your Worldographer folder, which is generally going to be, C:user / your username / Worldographer. And now that's something that you have to change, you have to create, or you can change it. And you can change that default location up on the configure menu as well. But Worldographer comes with a bunch of built-in icons, and then we've got our specialized icons here with all the ones that are the new ones that we just imported. We have a number of avian-themed ship icons, and then some fish-themed ship icons, and down towards the bottom we've got a number of insectoid icons down there. And I should point out our artist cartographer is Keith Curtis, and he's done month in and month out a great job of creating these icons for us that then we are able to put out through our Patreon, and those will be actually released to you guys at the end of this month, September. Right now I'm recording this September 20th. Now all we did so far really was create a blank map, but I decided that this isn't quite big enough, so let's go ahead and make it a little bit bigger and add in 6 tiles to the bottom because our Lamprey ship is rather large. The mini map doesn't really display shapes there. It's maybe it should, maybe particularly larger shapes. It focuses on terrain, but in this case we don't really have any terrain. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up a curve. The way that we're creating these ships to have nice curves to them is to use the curve functionality that's built into Worldographer. And we pick the curve, which allows us to also have a fill. You have the stroke and you have a fill, so you can have it an open side if you don't close it off, or if you make your last point match your first point, then it connects it up for you. So for our fill, we're going to do a mountain style texture, which is kind of something metallic looking. If we change some of the texture settings, which we'll do in a little bit, we can set the stroke to also be a stroke or a color. Based on the icons that we've got, we're going to make it this nice teal color, and we're going to widen the stroke a little bit. So now it's really just a matter of looking at the reference that we have for a Lamprey ship and then clicking points. And I should also point out that we're going to need to do this snap points to grid on the bottom, this checkbox. This will make sure that all of our points match up with the vertices of these tiles, as well as halfway across and 1/4 of the way across and 3/4 of the way across. So the way the curve works is that it starts with an anchor point, and then you've got 2 more control points, and then another anchor point, then 2 more control points, and then another anchor point. And that's how this functionality works, and there's a lot of math behind it. I don't remember off the top of my head if this is a cubic curve or different type, but nevertheless, you're able to pull off nice curves like this, and you can look back at your reference and decide, okay, do I need to move some of these points in or out to kind of pull off the effect that you want. So here our reference, kind of comes somewhat straight down, although it does loop out, but it loops out in a kind of a way for a bug eye, if you will, or a fish eye, I guess, in this case, because our pilot chair is going to be in there. And then we come out a little bit. So we're gonna put a circle on top of there essentially in order to kind of give that bug eye effect kind of thing. But now we're just looking at the reference and trying to come up with something that's approximately right, and then we can always tweak it again and you know get the result that we want. And then at this point we come in, I think, a little, no, well, we come down some, and then we come to a pretty abrupt curve inward there, and then we're going to go back out to a point, but you can see that gives us that curve in. And then 3 more points to get our tail, if you will. Okay, so now you do want to make sure that your points kind of match up, because all we need to do at this point is to basically mirror all those points. And so now is a good time to look again at your reference and make sure that all your bends are approximately what you had in your reference. And then we'll kind of basically manually copy those points. We're going to be making additional clicks at approximately the same spots, on the other side of that dividing line to pull off the other half of this shape. And yeah, and here we go. The first point. Yay! So this is a little bit faster because there's not having to look at the reference for each point. We just need to look to the other side there of the middle line. Boom. 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 Okay. Now here my mouse double clicks kind of, and so we've got an extra point essentially. An extra couple points get put down. So what we got to do is we kind of have to move the existing points around to get them sort of in the right order. Then once they're in the right order, we can position them properly and kind of, in this case, instead of deleting any, we're just going to put those last couple of points, the last anchor point and the last 2 control points, on top of each other, so that they're basically doing nothing. They're just those last couple of points are just on top of the next to last anchor point. So now we can see all the points, and we can drag them back on top of each other. And then we're done with that. And that's probably the hardest part of the whole thing, is to create this curve, and hopefully your mouse doesn't give the extra double clicks like mine does in that case. Although it only happened that one time there, so that's good. We're going to change the texture a little bit. The texture, like I said, this mountain, we're reusing the mountain to get more of a metallic effect. It helps to expand things out. In Worldographer, the behind the scenes in the data model, we're kind of treating each square, each hex or tile as 300 pixels across, but you're always free to change that scale. You can Actually, at the moment, we're doing 75 by 75. There's the tiles, tile width and height that you can see underneath the mini map there in the upper right-hand corner. You can make it more than 300, then we just go into decimals and pull that off. But yeah, so increasing that size gives you a better look for this kind of metallic floor plan. The original size is set there because that's what goes nicely with the world isometric icons, and this is designed, originally this texture is designed to work with that. So now what I want to do is I want to decide where to put the upper battle deck, if you will. That's the main deck, and so we've got an upper battle deck to do, but in order to pull that off, in order to decide where exactly to put that battle deck, I want to put down a couple of the fins, and for these fins for the lamprey, we've got these fish fins actually, or we can look to see if there's another thing that's a better fit there. We've got a hammerhead thing, but we're going to go back to these fish fins and then resize them, because some of these icons that are meant to be very large objects are actually sized half what they should be when you're using them in the tool. And so we can see, we're looking to see if there's any lamprey specific icons, and there's just the maw, just the front end that's custom for that. So we're going to use this fish fin. And like I said, we're going to go to the, we're just looking to see which one to put where. So we'll probably put that one down on the bottom and put the other fin up on the top. We also want to make sure that we put this on a different layer. We want to put it on the layer that's above the water, which is, we're kind of reusing the terms and functionality from Worldographer's world maps. But nevertheless, it's below the features layer and below the main shapes layer, if you will, or the other shapes layers. And so that when we put our fins in, then we're kind of, putting them under the other objects. And then we can, and you can see also we're overriding that default scale, and so these are 400% of a tile. That's the way that they're sized. They're based on the tile size. And get the rotation right. 315 isn't quite right, but it's close. So we can manually pick a different rotation amount. So we can go with 325 here, and for the other one, then we'll be doing 35, I believe, in order to rotate it by the same amount, but just to the other side. You could also do them both by 35, but have the horizontal flip checkbox checked for the other one. Ooh. Actually, that last fin is kind of in the wrong spot, but we'll correct that. So here's where we do the horizontal flip there for that. Nope, and you do have to rotate it anyway, so what I said before was wrong. So these fins, they could be put on the top as well if you wanted to. I didn't want to clutter the look of things, and I wanted to kind of more closely match what the originals are, but if you wanted to have them as kind of upward sails, they do have, you can see those lines and some of those anchors that you would use to pull that effect off. So now once we've got that all set, we're going to go ahead and do our upper battle deck, which is a little bit simpler. I mean, we're there's maybe a few less points to put down, but we got to kind of start with the front of that. So again, it's an anchor point, 2 control points, and another anchor point. Maybe in the interest of time, we'll just skip ahead a little bit there. Come here. You can see that it's continuing on, doing the other side, and then we're pretty much done. So now it's kind of the fun part of this is to, well, I guess we're still going to play with the curves a little bit to get them exactly right. Play with, yeah, just make sure everything is. Jump ahead a little bit, probably. Okay, yeah. So now we're just putting in some lines to go across. And we're trying to judge what's the right size, what's the right width to make those lines. So we're pulling up the door icons, and here is the fish ship's door. We're putting it on the features layer. So because the last feature that we had placed was underneath and on a different layer, so we needed to switch that back to the features layer. You can also do Control-Z to undo something, so that's what we did in order to remove the feature that was underneath the map. But now we can tweak this line. We can select the line by selecting one of the points, and then change it down to 10% wide in order to accommodate or to match that feature door. And then we want to look at the reference material and see what else is there. Here we can change the line caps to butt instead of round, so it doesn't kind of have a little corner sticking out. We could also massage those points a little bit. We can cheat them in a little bit, especially if we turn off snap points to grid, that checkbox. But since changing it to the line cap to butt worked, let's just do that. And then it's on to making the other rooms of this layer. And here's one where when we turn off the fill, and then we go back to a square. The square end doesn't quite work, so then we have to uncheck that snap points to grid, like I just said, and then drag that point ever so carefully over to the side and keeping it on the line otherwise. And then likewise, we're going to snap the points back on again and do these couple of points, but snap it off for the last one because we know it's not going to be in quite the right spot, so we can just drag that a little bit. And that's all we'll have to do for that. We're going to change the line join to be miter, so we get nice square corners on that corner that's, and here's the matching corner there as well. We're going to make the line join a miter. So then we go back to line because we've got a couple of points to put down for a couple more rooms. We've got, here's our double click that my mouse did for me. So we want to delete this line though now because we see that, hey, we forgot to put snap points back on. So now we can do that again. And in this case, that square end cap works. So we're going to keep it like that, but now we're going to draw a new line for the next room. And Those are the last of the rooms. However, looking back at the reference, I must have miscounted something. So we're going to drag down that tail end. We're going to drag all those points down because, yeah, I must have, that back area is supposed to be a cargo bay. So we're going to just, well, actually, I think that comes up a little bit later. Yep, here we go. And as part of this, we'll also be fixing that fish tail that's out of position as well. So we're going to pull those off to the side so that we don't lose them underneath the shape. But here we'll go ahead and select the shape and then pull those points in order to give us the size and dimensions that we want, which is basically another 2 squares. So if we just pull these down, we'll get the shape that we want for that tail. You can see how easy it really is to move everything around. Like I said, this is, this is just doing a control drag. As you click on one of those points, but drag it and hold down the control key before you click on it. So then we just put the features back in place. Okay, and then it sort of becomes a matter of becoming an interior decorating. We'll jump ahead a little bit here, and this is just a matter of putting the doors in place and having the 90-degree checkbox on, and just looking at the reference and seeing, hey, where did the original map have the doors placed, and putting them in similar spots. And, I really think this is cool if it's what I think oh well, there's the helm, which we're going to put in the wrong spot at first. You'll see that we'll move it back into the pilot's chamber, but there's supposed to be controls up there for the maw in the front for that grappling hook in the front. And we can resize that and everything using this override default scale on the side. Here's where we're adding those little knobs on the side here, and you can see we're using them. They're arcs, which they're arc/oval. And if you set the extent angle to less than 360, well, then you're going to have a partial circle, which is an arc. And you can set the start angle. So where does the line around the circle begin and end? So that's what that's doing. That start angle is saying where does it start, and then the shape continues all the way to however many degrees you have set for the extent. And then we do one on the other side, and we'll probably massage this a little bit bigger, make them a little bit bigger there. Then we'll jump ahead a little bit again. Yeah, so here we grabbed a ladder that's built into Worldographer, not one of the custom graphics, and then we put down another shape there on the bottom to kind of show you, hey, there's a hatch here, and we can play with the color for the hatch. First we'll set it to a black, but we don't want anything quite that dark. So then we can go back to custom color and set the opacity to something in this case 28%, close enough. And then you get an effect like, hey, that's an opening there, so people know. Okay, oh yeah, the ballista. So the ballista are awesome that Keith has come up with. I really like the insectoid one in particular, but the avian one here is cool too, and this fish one is cool. So that's all pretty awesome stuff, I think. And yeah, we've got 4 ballista on that top battle deck. Then we've got our chairs, and so we're going to kind of do something like this is supposed to be the pilot's area here, which will move the pilot's helm chair into there in a moment, but we're also going to put in like kind of 2 desk areas, if you will, like a captain's desk and maybe some other crew desk or something. And that's just a matter of selecting the icon you want, setting the size with overriding the default scale. You can also scale the height independently so that you get a, if you don't like the aspect ratio of the original graphic, then you can change the height independently of the width. And so this really is a matter of becoming an interior decorator and putting down your chairs and your tables and stuff like that. There's moving the helm. And then here's building the rooms for the pilot and the captain. We've got 2 identical rooms that are supposed to look pretty nice, and so we've got the beds and a desk there, and which is just another table in this case, and a chair for each. And then jumping ahead a little bit more. Same thing with bunk beds is what we're going to make so we squeezed the beds a little bit because our regular crew don't need 4.5 foot wide beds. They can get by with 3 foot wide beds. I was on a tour of New England and toured a sub late post World War II, but early post World War II sub up there, and that was really interesting to see how many folks they got to sleep in such a cramped area. In fact, I think they probably they triple decked them. And they also, when they needed to, they would also use some of the beds for storage and make people, double or triple bunk, in which case, one person sleeps from, these 8 hours, another person sleeps for another 8 hours, and then the third person gets the same bed for the next 8 hours. And so that's how they could. So you could, even though we end up putting 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 beds in just this crew room once all is said and done, you're going to see, yeah, there we go. Yeah, okay, so you're going to see that we end up, you could have 3 times as many people staying there. And in fact, so we're going to turn those top beds in that crew room sideways so we can fit 2 more, and then move these 2 and then fit 2 more in there even. All right, so moving along still, so that finishes that room off. Now we're doing our mess hall / galley, and so we're putting in a cooktop, and this cooktop actually came from one of our other icon sets. We did a gnomes icon set that happened to have a couple of cooktops. There aren't any cooktops built into the graphics, and they're not part of this particular set, but we've got them in plenty of other sets, or you can find something else online. Worldographer will let you import any PNG image. It'll import JPEGs too, for that matter, and GIFs, I believe. But those aren't ideal because the transparency either doesn't exist in JPEGs, or for GIFs, the transparency isn't as pretty. So we do that, and then we're going to do some chairs and a table there. And then down here on the bottom in the cargo hold, we're going to do a couple of crates and so forth. And we're almost done. Now it's just a matter of, okay, hey, let's tweak the size of the map a little bit, get that all correct. And then finally, we're going to put in another shape texture underneath the whole map of cosmic stars that comes in this set to give you the map. And then save and export, and as needed, and you're good to go. So there you have it. I hope that the tool helps you make some excellent maps. And again, these icons are going to be released as part of our Patreon at the end of the month. Thank you.